I'm happy to be back again this year to share my stories. And since the theme is environment, I decided to choose about water. So, the story is a Nigerian folk tale rewritten by author Amrita Patil. It's a beautiful story, the way she has rewritten it. It has elements of science. It also teaches us to value water, protect, and conserve water. It's very important for us to treat water with respect, just like other species in nature. So let me start with the story. चांद सी महबूबा ओ मेरी अब ऐसा मैंने सोचा था हाँ तुम बिल्कुल वैसी हो जैसा मैंने सोचा था. They were the perfect match made for each other. Wherever they went, they illuminated, brightened the world. I'm talking about the sun and the moon. One day, they decided to build a house of their own. So it took a long time and a lot of space. But eventually, they did complete their house. And when it was complete, it was bigger than the biggest, more roomier than heaven itself. Sun and moon decided to fill it with interesting objects. So they drew rivers and mountains at a distance so that when they looked out of the window, they had a wonderful view. A flock of clouds ran like technicolor sheep. Oh, the colors! During the day, the house was golden yellow, golden blue, and in the evening turned purple pink, and at night, oh, the ceiling was filled with dazzling, shimmering stars. Sun and moon were very proud of their house. They stood at a distance, admired their handiwork, and they were very vain. After all, what use is a house if you don't show it off? Have a housewarming party, right? So they decided to have a party and invite all their friends. And they had friends aplenty, everyone in the universe. And their best friend was water. So sun and moon sent out invitations to every pachyderm and beetle. Every bug and every insect got a separate invite. Oh, what a great party it was. There was a spectacular sound, light, and magic show, sumptuous food, and tables laid with flowers and honey. You could smell the wet earth and also the cake baked in the oven. It was a great party. Wind came by and silk cotton pods hitched a ride up. Somebody gifted the moon a chandelier of asteroids. Planets and orbits made careful planets and satellites made careful orbits. As for the flock of geese, they just flew. And then there were the descending snowflakes, which took a detour so they could watch this spectacular show. And meteors showered overhead. As for the sunflowers, they were grounded. So they craned their necks up to see this beautiful, spectacular show. What a grand fete it was. Everyone in the party got a takeaway, dazzling, shimmering gift to take home. After the sun and moon had put away the last cloud to rest and the last star to sleep, they stood in their garden and looked at their house, turned to each other. Something was actually preying on their mind. Everyone had come except their best friend, water. So Moon pouted, turned to the sun, and said, "Why did water not come? Doesn't she want to see us happy? You know, I visit her every day and help her with the waves. Why didn't she come?" And sun said, now, calm yourself. Don't get so worried. Because when moon began to sulk, she sometimes went into a sulky crescent and sometimes disappeared from the sky for days. And this really gave grief to the sun. So he said, don't worry, she must have had a reason. But the sun himself felt snubbed. The next day, the morning, when he was at his zenith, he looked down because he wanted to investigate, and he saw water, and he cleared his throat. "You!" And water looked up and said shyly, I believe you had a spectacular party." "Ha! As if you would notice. You weren't there." "But I heard it from everyone." "What an ungrateful ingrate you are. We sent you handwritten invites and you didn't come for the party." And moon and water said, Now, sun, my friend, you see, I have a large family. I can't leave my children at home unattended. I have responsibilities." Ha! The sun expostulated in anger. There were sun flares all around. And he blew a gasket. And he said, "Excuse me, is there music on the background?" Thank you. So he blew a gasket and he lost it. And he said, you are a mere puddle. I can evaporate you in just a minute and leave you just with sand and salt. Don't you forget it. Responsibilities. I have responsibilities. I have to run the entire solar system. And I took time off to build a house and also had a party. And you talk about responsibilities, indeed. Water felt very small. Sun was a big bully, but she knew her friend's sun was not a bad star at heart. So Water spoke in measured tones and said, "You see, sun, I'm large. Do you see my size? And a large family. You couldn't have accommodated us. That was the last straw. Sun couldn't take being belittled by a mere liquid." And he said, Oh, my fair weather friend, let me not keep you from your responsibilities. I believe I have a sunset to attend to." And he was about to walk away when Water felt sad because she was pacific by nature. She didn't like confrontation. She said, Sun, please understand. If I leave my family behind, they would parch and die. And we are large. I have so many children." And Sun felt that he had been very rude. And he really wanted his best friend Water to visit him. So he said, "I'm sorry for all that noise. Why don't you come with your children? We have room for all of them. Moon would be very happy to host you. Come tomorrow," said the sun. And Water knew that she couldn't argue with a friend. She relented. But she knew there was trouble. So Water began to gather her large family. They were rather delicate, shy, fragile. She didn't want to leave anyone behind. She scooped them up in her skirt. Holy moly, they were slippery. And then she lifted her long trailing blue-green skirt and made her voyage odyssey to the house of the sun and the moon. Along the way, she was joined by seas, rivers, oceans, puddles, ponds, brooks, streams. Everyone joined the watery parade. There were seaweed and shrimp, plankton, porpoise, fish, crab, sea lions, and mangroves, and a million other things that you wouldn't know their names, let alone I. All joined the watery parade. They were all excited. This was their first outing ever. Only water was anxious. And her three friends, triple T's, Tempest, Typhoon, and Tide, also decided to join this watery parade. And when they were around, believe you me, children, things got a bit boisterous. So all of them were on their way to the house of the sun and the moon. There was a fever pitch of excitement. And they were all trying to peer over water's shoulder to see what joy, magic lay beyond the door of the house of the sun and the moon. A gargantuan wave built behind water. The sky was an upside-down bowl of water with baleen whale ricocheting in the sky and all the fish stranded in the garden. As the water was about to knock on the door of the house and the moon, she heard the silvery hostess voice of the moon. Be right there. Water knew disaster was going to happen, and she tried one last time. Please, please, don't come. Don't let us come to your house. We are happy we can make our way. And that's when the sun's loud, imperious voice rang out. Ha ha ha! Everyone once in their lifetime should visit the house of the sun and the moon. And with a flourish, sun opened the door, and the rest, as they say, was the great flood's evolution. Children, there was a gush of water, and the door of the house of the sun and the moon came unhinged and was washed away in the flood of water. Water filled every nook and cranny. Torrents of water flowed in, and the house of the sun and the moon was completely washed away. There were whirlpools of water, and a sea cow landed plonk in the middle of the dining table. And the moon, she leapt on the chandelier of asteroids. As for the sun, his dignity was dampened a little bit. But he too escaped through the roof, waited for the water to recede. It took a long time. So this is what happened the day water visited the house of the sun and the moon. Do you think something came between their friendship? No. After all, remember that dialogue which my friend said from Chennai Express, but I'm quoting this from Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge. Oh, senorita. What does he say? I've forgotten. बड़े बड़े ब्रह्मांड में ऐसे छोटे छोटे किस्से होते रहते हैं, senorita. No problem, said the sun. And sun and the moon went on to build another house bigger than the biggest, more roomier than the heaven itself. And they filled it with interesting objects, drew mountains and trees at a distance so that they could see a beautiful scenery when they looked out of the window. And they decided to have a party. Handwritten invites were sent to every pachyderm, beetle, bee, and what other insect that you can think of? Grasshopper, cricket. Everyone was invited for the party. But this time, water stayed away at a distance and cheered. And she sent rainbows instead. So they went on to become very fast friends. And the sun and the moon never, ever underestimated the power of water, the value of water, ever again. Thank you, children. This is a folk tale from Nigeria, beautifully rewritten by Amrita Patil in Water Stories. This has been published by Tulika Books. You can get it. They have lovely water stories. And since climate change is the topic that is resounding or everywhere in the world, this is a very pertinent story. Everywhere, every festival talks about conservation of water. And I'm also talking about the sacred Ganges next week. I can send the link to the organizers, and you children can tune in. It is online. I'm part of the Yorkshire Festival, where I talk about the sacred Ganges, the Ganga, the descent of the Ganga, and how polluted she is, and what are we doing about it? Yeah? So I would say once again, children, go ahead, save water, conserve water, protect water, value water, and all the ecosystems in the world. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's taught us to respect nature. So have a great, great storytelling weekend. Once again, namaste. And that's it from me, Usha Venkatraman. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow.